So, welcome to Mind Shifters Radio, and today is Thursday, August the 20th, 2026. We welcome you to the show. Michael will be in here in just a second. Welcome, Esbjorn, Andrea, Terry, Rex. Glad you all are with us. Anybody have anything to open us up with?
It's good to see you, Jeanie.
Thank you. Good to have you with us.
How's
Michael's
things
with us
going
now.
with your book?
The workbook, I am getting bids on having it printed because I want to have it printed with a spiral bind so people can open the journal up and easier to write. So I'm getting bids on having it printed. The group that printed my original book don't do spiral binding, and they've quoted me on a flat edge, but then the book doesn't lay open flat. And so as soon as I get some bids, it's ready to go.
Beautiful.
Yay. Well, Rex dropped off. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome everybody. Delighted that you're here. And I had a conversation with Terry earlier this morning, and we decided to put the conversation on hold so that it could be an open conversation that everybody could listen and participate in. So, Terry, you want to open the gates and see where we go? Give us some background and some direction.
Okay, glad to. I'm trying to get my background noise quieted and stuff.
Oh, actually, you're pretty clear. You're pretty clear. We're not hearing any background noise.
Okay, good. So, we had a conversation this morning and touched on a couple of areas. One was on the work that I've been doing around a core issue of money and finances and stuff that started real young and then taken into two power person detailed worksheets and had come to a place where there was an understanding that desire was a primary ingredient that facilitates me manifesting things in my life. And the desire was more than just, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have this, or gosh, I want that, or oh, let me manifest a new truck or something like that. There's a difference between that want or need and an actual desire that comes from a deeper place, and it's often spoke of in a lot of the metaphysical teachings. Ones that come to mind are, The Secret and Think and Grow Rich, Wallace Waddles, all those guys. When you get to looking at it, they talk about that desire, and I've looked at that in detail a lot, and it's like, well, how do I really truly come into connection with desire? And so for me, desire is something that would be in alignment with like my higher purpose, and would come from a place that's not necessarily, or definitely not, the carbon-based memory bank. That it comes from a higher source and a higher place. In relation to that, we had talked. I sent you a text too, a little bit about my experience on the worksheet I was doing this morning, where there was a different and distinct, separate experience and feeling around the emotion that was triggered, and it was around a money issue. We got a little check, put it in the bank, they put a hold on it. And it's like, the buzzer went off inside. This little, and I was like, oh, there it is, automatically. Resonated some stuff in there. Sit down.
A goal frustrated.
Yeah. I did a couple worksheets around that, and boom, sent a message to the bank manager, and he released it within. It all happened within 20 minutes. It was beautiful.
Right.
So And what was surprising for me, well, there was many little surprises in all that interaction. And one was the intensity and the quickness and how fast that flashed up from the unconscious. And we were talking, Tim and Jeanie and I were talking at length about subconscious, unconscious, and conscious, and how those different things come into play. So that, to me, that's a prime example of an unconscious piece coming to surface. It's not a subconscious; it's an unconscious, carbon-based memory trigger energy that just automatically popped up. I was like, oh, and
Instant.
Instant. It's like no, just a flash. But when I was canceling the goal and working with it and looking at that, there was a really clear and distinct feeling at a different level between I can't remember exactly how you put it, the thought that thinks the thought, the being, that kind of thing that you say it much nicer. But there's the thinker of the thought, and then there's that thought that just pops up. There was a real separation there, and my I was much more connected and dialed into being and observing and being, as opposed to the trigger and the resonance and the unconscious fear and there was frustration that was triggered around that. So that was a really nice piece, and I'm
Nice catch.
Yeah, holding on to that and looking for more of that, because it for me it delineates like the next level of detachment or separation from the program of the carbon-based memory, all that stuff that we've been working on so diligently for years now to break, to let go of, just to let it go. And that
Right.
tied right into the desire thing. So what do we do with the desire? So I'll go ahead and give you my answer. The desire comes when I let go. I'm like in a breath session. That's where I'm doing a lot of my work now. It's just, okay, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to allow whatever wants and needs to surface, which is a distinct difference between what I want or think I need to surface, as opposed to what needs to surface from a clear being sense of space. So there you go. There's a nice introduction on that piece.
Cool. Yeah, one of the other words that you used when we were talking earlier today was inspiration. And how that all ties together. Look at that word desire. Sire is father. Is of, desire of the father. And we're back to the breath again, inspiration. That when I'm breathing, delivered to me is the intelligence of what comes next in my world, what comes next in my life. And when I'm gathering that from the breath rather than from the past, then I'm gathering that which is going to be straight online and in line with my purpose, as opposed to, old generational patterns and wants and so-called wants and needs. That when I'm tapped in and aligned, living in alignment with my purpose, then I'm creating consciously rather than unconsciously. The great point in the Course in Miracles says, you can't not create. You're a creator. That's the way it is. And when we create out of need, and the word need is lack, if we create out of lack, then we'll tend to move in the direction of more and more of that lack, where when I let the breath come in and guide me, when I let the intelligence of the breath, the wisdom of the breath, the delivery of love that comes with the breath, then it's going to be of the Father. It's going to be in alignment with what my life is really about. If that makes sense.
It does. And I really appreciate the connection, the link. We're doing a word link here between desire and inspire. and aspire. And I will play that game with myself sometimes where a certain word will come up, just in this case, like we're talking about, desire, and see what flows up to connect to that with a similar root, like inspire and aspire and so forth, and it does broaden and deepen the opening, and connection to bring the things up that I would like to have come up and to look at. Opens up a door for that.
Well, I certainly hold the space for that door to open for the next level of, one of the things Yeshua talks about, he says, you don't even have to ask. The Creator already knows. And what's needed. And, if what we find ourselves in is an empty space, then maybe what's needed is an empty space, and we need to go into that space and be with what's moving in us. And then what flows into purpose and connection has to come next, has to flow in to fill the space without asking. The whole Western, the Greek construct of prayer is, putting your order in the cosmic gift catalog. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I demand. This is what I want to create. This is, what I want to manifest. And it's interesting, in the Aramaic language, the word manifest is tied to the word obvious. What is obvious to you? If it's obvious that we're supposed to live in abundance, then abundance is going to be manifest. If it's obvious we're supposed to be in poverty, then, if the mind energy is that of poverty, then there's going to be that of poverty. And once again, the delivery of the fullness when there's error, and the undoing of the error comes from the breath, comes from that wisdom that comes in and rides on the breath. And it's, it's like the state of being human rides into human physiology on the breath.
And I really like connecting inspired desire. That's
Yes.
a really, really good definition of what I was reaching for. An inspired desire is much more different than a needy, wanting kind of desire. An inspired desire, yes. I like that.
Yeah. What's required to fulfill your purpose? And when everything that's out of alignment with purpose is forgiven, then what's needed to fulfill purpose is going to fall into place. So joining with you in total abundance, falling into place. Abundance in the arena of health, aliveness, vitality, intelligence, presence, love, money, decent food, health support, all of the above. Any other thoughts for you in that regard, my friend?
I'm with you.
All right. Well, I'm with you too.
Yeah, it's a very appropriate statement.
Awesome.
I've got more to share about some other stuff later, but let's see what this brings up.
Okay, well, so that open anything for anybody else? I see a new name on our list, Cindy with an I. I don't know who Cindy is. If Cindy, it feels appropriate, you could hit your mute button and just say hello, introduce yourself, and certainly not a requirement. Delighted that you're here. However you got here. So anyone have anything to add to that conversation about uncreating consciously that our creative ability flows through what we hold within us. And so if we hold unconscious dynamics, then things are going to tend to show up that bite us in the butt. We don't know where they came from because there's something in our minds that is unconscious. And that when those things that seem to be, nipping at our toes or what have you, show up, they're always a feedback signal that says, "Oh, creator, what in you has attracted this?" Now, one of the things that the ego mind can do is to say, "Well, you mean I'm to blame?" It's like, no, there's no blame in the whole game whatsoever. It's just what am I engaging in as a creator? If something's nipping at my heels, what in me has invited that to come and nip at my heels? And can I breathe peacefully into whatever that is and embrace whatever it moves in me? And if it moves in me something that's of limitation, then I get to clean up my unconscious. And so all of life serves that purpose. And go for it, Rex. You have a thought for us?
Well, I just think it's a wonderful conversation that leads right from where we left off with yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, exactly right on. I mean, it was cool to watch Terry bring it in and start discussing it. I walked out to the back of our acres. We live on 10 acres and we've got 3 beehives. And as I'm walking by the beehives, it goes, oh, there's the example. Because we have the bees that are just interacting. If it gets too hot for the hive, then the bees create a beard. It looks like a beard.
I didn't catch the word. They create a
beard.
Okay.
Like a beard. You know, like a beard grows. It grows from a top wide and then down to a point. Well, that's what the bees do. They form a beard on the bottom of the hive. And if that doesn't cool the hive, then they form another beard on another opening. Anywhere there's an opening in the hive, because the beard sucks the hot air out. Then they flap their wings really fast
to draw the air,
to draw the hot air out to cool the hive.
Nice.
And I guarantee not one bee says to the other bee, "Hey, get your butt out there and get to work." You know what I mean? They show up.
The breath of the hive.
Exactly, in harmony, in alignment to love, whatever our version of it would be. But nature just functions naturally in that, unless it's disrupted by humans and have a projection of our own ideas of how nature should be. It functions wholly independent of what we do, and it does really well, marvelously. Yes. And I think it's a great.
You trailed off there, Rex.
Of what we are by design.
We lost Rex. Rex, we lost your last sentence.
Whoops. And can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. If you just go back a sentence or two, okay. you kicked out there for just a second.
So I think what I was saying is that when in harmony, we have the opportunity to function that way continuously. And that is the key way to that is the breath. The key way to that is to being fully present and conscious as love. And as we are triggered in those different areas of stuff that we hold in our field, and I'm actually of the mind that we have to actively engage it and hold it in our field. It isn't, I mean, we got to repeat it and renew it and revisit it and all the crap. But I think it's done. It shows us the nature, God, and as we release what we hold and allow it to become a non-issue, no emotional charge with it, it becomes an observable peace, witnessed peace that we can function as, pure love. And we have experiences of. I'm having an experience of watching the bees standing in front of 3 hives, and I'm respectful. I've still got a little apprehension about 1,000 or 3,000 bees buzzing around me. I'm not that
Yeah,
comfortable.
yeah, I'd think twice about that too.
So I'm back about 30 feet and I can approach them and come up pretty close. And they know that I'm not a threat, so I don't become anything that they need to pay attention to. But if I became a threat, the whole hive would come together, not to attack something, but to protect their life, their
Take care of itself.
source of being, you know. And I just, there's so much that I've learned by spending time in nature. I'm at a 90-day commitment. We have a walnut tree that's 45 feet wide. Its limbs and its trunk is probably almost 3 foot in diameter. It's a really old walnut, and I visit and I meditate by it and I lean against it and I talk to it and I just ask. And so it's such a beautiful experience to be with nature and to be in nature. And I think, again, it goes back to that design. And as I remember more and more continuously who I am, and I allow the things that I am not to be integrated by using the tools and breathing and purifying and eating well and living well, then everything becomes an awe. Even the difficult experiences like Susan, man, challenging maximally, but still approaching it from a place of awe. She even said that word yesterday, I thought.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are my thoughts in the moment. I'll just pause and see what you got, Mike.
Okay. Cool.
And anything
You're
you'd like
cutting
to add,
in and out a little bit as you
or
speak.
anyone for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just
Well,
put,
I apologize. I
they-
thought it might be a problem out here. Yep.
that's okay. We got you.
I'll mute and then listen.
Okay.
Okay. Because
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right. So based on some of what you just said, Rex, I just put a link in to a video, and I don't know why when you paste it in, it comes up with a crazy title on it. But it's an interesting video on some research being done with plants, with trees, and the way they communicate and how deep that communication goes. Right down to one of the things you talk about is black walnut trees and how black walnut trees put out toxins that attack or tend to kill off plants that are not complementary to them. It talks about the mycelium and how they communicate right down to the point where, and they're theorizing, of course, which, the video link talks about. This is terrifying. There's nothing terrifying about it, but it speaks of this much bigger whole picture of nature, and it kind of puts some of the signals that plants give off into a human realm, which the article, I put a question mark in there, but really how deep is the level of communication that we're living in? And as a result of listening to the thesis of the video, I start out with an article, or pardon me, a quote from the Native American tradition, generally attributed to the Coast Salish Native Americans, and I'm not even sure precisely how to pronounce the Howendosini tribe. Anyway, their statement is, treat the earth well. It was not given to you by your parents. It was loaned to you by your children. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. Walk lightly upon the earth and smile back into creation as it smiles upon you. And the whole thesis of the video is the amount of silent communication that goes on in the creation that doesn't reach our ears, but if we're walking softly upon the earth, reaches our sensibilities. It's just a really interesting thesis of how connected we are and what our place is in the creation. So if you want to copy that out of the links out of the chat, it's there.
That's beautiful, Michael. How's my reception now? Does it seem clear?
Better, yeah. There doesn't
Good.
seem to be any shake in your voice at all.
Yeah, I disconnected from the Wi-Fi because I'm far enough from the house. It was trying to grab it and hold on, so I just
Right.
So, Michael, what you're sharing is right on. I'm now sitting at the base of the tree, and what I was so interesting, and it's subjective, so I'm giving you my subjective experience, but I think it's related to all the things that we talk about in this, on this program. But sitting here leaning against the tree, my bare shoulders, my back, against the tree. And the first day I did it was about 2 weeks ago. I sat here and I just felt inspired to pick up some glass because it's an old area where the people lived here before dumped trash around their property, which is kind of crazy, but we've spent 4 years cleaning it up. So the glass just keeps coming up from the ground in this area. And so I was picking it up and put it in a bag and got a bag. And I'm always cleaning it up. And you mentioned Native American. I stand by and do my best to live by the principle of wherever I go into any area, if I'm able to improve upon the area so that it is better than when I got there.
Nice.
Meaning,
Yep.
yeah, pick up a piece of paper or something, do something that would be go into a home. And if there's, if they need some help, show a little help. And maybe there's lots of ways of doing it, but I do that as best I can. And I found it to be really cool. Native Americans have so many good ideas. So I'm sitting here on the tree, next to the tree, and I just thought to ask. I said, I was thanking the tree for supporting my healing in my arm, and part of the process is to actually hug the tree and extend the being that we are, love, and share it. So I've been doing that, and
You're a tree hugger.
I'm a tree hugger from long
I'm with
ago. long time ago. So yes, and what came out of it was more intriguing to me than me hugging the tree. I stopped, I paused and said, since I've been coming out, I've been thanking for all the healing energy and the love that you're sharing with me, and the energy, the nature. What can I do for you? And the tree thanked me for picking up the glass. There was
I hear you.
this sense of gratitude. I couldn't really tell you exactly how that works in my own experience of it. It sounds like a voice, but it's more a sense of knowing that connects. And I've been playing with this for a long time with the garden and the food we grow and eat. And now we have a lot more property that we are, extending out and cleaning up and honoring. And so I think there's just about everything we need to learn is reflected in nature, and I think we get so far away from that. And that's what our families are both doing our best to reconnect with. Michael, I know when I was visiting your house there, and Jeanie, your beautiful space, the yard and the backyard you're on a slope. It was pretty steep, and you're gardening and you're growing berries and you've got all kinds of food growing, and it's so beautiful. And you got the cycling the materials so you can have raw material coming out at the end. And I'm wandering a little bit with this, but what I'm actually speaking to is you have a purpose exercise. And I know that each of us have our own divine inspired purpose that ideally drives all of our desires. And I use those words specifically to what we were talking about earlier, what I was hearing you say, Terry. And whenever I have someone that I'm working with that says, hey, I'm kind of losing a sense of purpose, and it's to remind us to just go back into the breath, go to the breath and be willing to listen, be quiet and listen. And that's what I'm learning, amongst many other things in my life in general, but by just spending time every day with this tree and being in nature and asking, okay, what have I got next? What's next for me? What can I learn? What can I give? Is there something I can do, to support? And as I was sitting here, I realized the tree was helping me understand that some wild vines are growing up and it's been killing some of the external limbs. And the vines that grow will eventually kill a tree. So that's something Zach and I are going to do, and we're going to clean it out. So I'll open it back up again. I apologize. I don't need to apologize. I'm sharing from my heart, and I hope that it's beneficial for everyone. But I would love to hear anybody else that has input or anything they would like to share.
Breathing with you. You actually bring to mind an experience that I think it was about the second year that I was at Heartland. And I don't know if you remember, but if you drive from Heartland to Mountain Home, Arkansas, you're going down Highway 5, and on the left-hand side, there's a huge oak tree that's about 3 feet in diameter, just huge. And in the early days of being there, I'd drive by that tree and think, one of these days I'm going to stop and say hello to that tree. And one day the owner of the property was out tending his lawn, and I stopped and I said, hey, do you mind if I go hang out with your tree? And he said, oh, all kinds of people come and ask me that. Sure, go ahead. So I went over, and as you're saying, I leaned against the tree. And as I did that, I reached up and I kind of scratched my head. And when I brought my hand back down, I had a piece of bark in my hand. And I was like, well, that's interesting. So I just kind of held onto the bark and, was there for a little while, got my van and went on heading back to Heartland. And I hadn't gotten, maybe a mile down the road. And as you say, it sounds like a voice, but I have this voice in my head that says, so you came to the tree to receive something. What are you going to give in return?
Yes.
And I was a little shocked. It's the first time I'd ever had a tree talk to me, or at least a piece of bark talk to me. But I mean, it was literally very clear communication. And I said, well, I don't know what I can offer you, but whatever I can, I'm happy to. So the piece of bark said to me, so create an altar. And I'd never had an altar at that point. I have that piece of bark. I brought it from Heartland. It's here on the altar that I have here. And I put that piece of bark on it. And what it said was, radiate your human experience back to me, and I will have the human experience stored in my experiences. And so that for me became a point, and that's 33, 34 years ago. That's a point where another level of awareness of the communication occurs. It's documented in the video that I put in the notes, that is available to us. It's open to us. And so thanks for resonating that. It's one of those sweet memories that I have of my early days at Heartland.
Story. I don't remember that story, but it sure is a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
It's so right on to my experience. I mean, every day I do the best I can, even in winter, to get bare feet. And if I have to clean out a place of snow, I stand on the bare ground. You know, I found that by being willing to do that and anchor my being, who I am, and by putting my feet to the ground and then extending the love that I feel and the awe for the earth and for what's happening, it nourishes and nurtures the earth. And I mean, speaking in a micro manner, but the property we live on gives so much to us. We've got 30 fruit trees now. We've got, you know,
Nice.
massive walnut tree, and we got a whole grove of walnuts all over from this tree that's populated the whole area. We've got, you know, many oak trees. We've got a lot of maples. We have, you know, a pond I mean, we've got so many beautiful things, and nature provides us all the water we need from the ground, and the appreciation and awe when I allow that to be most prevalent in my awareness, everything else becomes more muted, Michael. You know,
It
and
always becomes louder, more
yes,
available. Yeah,
yes.
I hear you. One of the things I've been looking at lately is grounding shoes. I haven't made a decision as to which ones to buy yet, but there are shoes that have copper or silver wire in them that actually, you know, through grommets and such, connect to the earth and come back to the feet. And I've been looking at getting a pair of grounding shoes to keep that connection. Whenever I'm in the garden, you know, just before the show started, I was out collecting tomatoes and pretty much made a circle around the whole property at bare feet, just connecting with the earth.
Nice. Yes, I've seen that. I've not explored that. I do as much barefoot as I can, but our area is known as the gravel capital of the world at one point in time. Well, now it's of the United States anymore. And
Challenge to go
there are
barefoot
rocks
then.
everywhere. So walking can be a little tricky. It toughens the feet up, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Zach and I joke a lot. My son-in-law, about he says, I found another rock when we're digging. It's like, yeah, they're everywhere. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's, but that grounding, Michael, is so important to health.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that people forget. I mean, so wonderful reminder, and what you're sharing and what I'm sharing, I think is really so important, because we can go through,
Yeah.
many people go days without connecting with the earth physically.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's important for our health and our well-being and our a peace of mind, and being connected to our divine and feeling that presence in me is really crucial, that I share it with the earth. And and like I started to say, so much is given from. I love Native American approach. They would always share something back, like that tree asked you, you know, would you do this? And it's like, what a gift. You and also the tree together share. But giving back, the Native Americans would always say, they would sprinkle a little tobacco. When they pulled food out of the ground, they would put a little tobacco there. And there was a physical, practical thing that was there because it nourished the soil. But there was also this thank you and a gift back, not because it was required, but because that's what the heart said. That's what the desire and the inspiration was, Terry. Yeah, beautiful.
It's interesting. You know, Michael J., who's now, I think we were determining the other day, is 47 or 48. He's lives in Kansas City now, and he's a computer nerd. So he's a tenderfoot now. But when he was a kid, he would start barefoot down at the bottom of the hill, down at the lake.
Oh, yeah.
And, he would run full speed on those rocks on the road all the way up to the house. If you haven't been to Heartland, it's a pretty significant difference. And Michael would do that without even a second thought, just run those rocks but he wouldn't think about it. He's such a tenderfoot.
That's That's wild. I
So anyone else, anything to share in regard?
did not know that. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that's a heck of a.
Yeah, he'd go from the lake right up to the house, full speed. No, no, I mean, his feet were like, they were like shoes as a kid. So let's see if anyone else has a thought. Is this resonating anything for anyone? Anyone keying in with that connectedness with the energy field of the earth and the abundance that we gain from that? You know, starting out from what Terry was sharing about tapping into that natural abundance, being inspired, being connected. Anyone have a thought to put into the field in that regard? As Bjorn, I have the inclination to ask you, being from Europe, how any of this conversation fits for you and the traditions that you come from as the European representative in the family here.
Well, I need to say that I have much more training in me of the Native American ethos than of the Western European Christian ethos that I originated in. Because I've been traveling here in Canada since at least a month a year, apart from the COVID years and 1 year that I broke my leg just 2 weeks before the planned trip to come here for about a month a year, each of those years. And it totally resonates with me because of having learned about the First Nation traditions of North America. So there's nothing that is foreign to me in what you've been speaking, and it makes so much sense. I'm also trained in permaculture, and it's all about creating no wastes, recycling everything that can be recycled. I know that North America have got a picture of what permaculture is about, but that's my picture of what permaculture is.
Right.
Supplying all the needs, caring for all the needs that you personally have and creating them yourself, and not taking from anything, but all the things that are unuseful for you, finding the way of recycling them back to other people or to Mother Nature, which is,
and is there any
the baseline of the First Nation way of being.
Right. Yes. And I wonder, with your heritage, is there a connection to the Viking tradition?
In family research that my mother specifically has done, it seems as if I have much more Belgian and German origins than Swedish that go back to the Viking days.
Okay.
But something that I found out just a couple of days ago, I knew that my great grandfather on my maternal line of the family, that he came to North America to create a life for himself, his girlfriend, I don't think they were married, and the daughter that they had. And it seems as if he made it to Prince George, because there's a photo taken of him in Prince George from 1922-23 that my mom sent just 2 days ago. And he was apparently shot somewhere here on the North American continent. I don't know whether it was around Prince George or whether it was elsewhere. So finding all of this out, I knew he had been shot in North America from a long time ago, but I didn't know that it might be in this neck of the woods where I am finding myself these months. and have been traveling for all these years. So I've got some research to do in that respect. Got nothing to do with what you're talking about on the show today, but something that I wanted to share with you all. Another reason for why I'm finding myself here.
Sounds like
that
a
I didn't know
calling.
about. Yeah, exactly.
And that certainly ties in with, the communication from the earth with the earth, and what kind of energy he put into the earth here, and tapping into what kind of connection is there for you in that regard, even though it seems like another time, another place.
Yeah.
Who knows what the depth is when we really start to breathe and listen to those deeper voices or those deeper inclinations. So I hold the space that you're able to really tap into that and cover it. And the thought comes that maybe there's something he would like for you to do, or something for you to fulfill in that regard. So we'll hold the space if that's any truth in that you're led right to it.
Yeah, I've had the impulse already. I've never been interested in family history and researching old lines, but I've had the impulse already from seeing the photos yesterday morning to ask around if I can find out any sort of information about the shooting, if it did happen around here and so on, and whether I can go to where the sort of general area where it was shot. Of course, I wouldn't ever know the exact location, but to revisit that, if his remains have been buried somewhere, it would be good to connect with that as well. I doubt
you might be told exactly where he is.
Yeah, might be. I don't know. I'm open, and I have no expectations, because that's where I need to be. Open.
Well, I don't know if you've been on a show where I've shared this, but back when I did my first quantum still point on myself, shortly after that, I did, and thinking my time sequences, it was shortly after, it might have been shortly before, but in around that time period, I did a still point breathing session. And in that session, when you're doing still point, you're laying down, your eyes are closed, and I'm laying there breathing and my eyes are closed, and I'm instructed, I get this mental message that I should look down. And as I get that message, I'm kind of like, well, I'm laying here. Why would I need to look down? It's like, look down. So I physically turn my eyes downward. And as I do, I see this vast field of blackness, like farther than I can imagine seeing. I conceive of this field of darkness. And in this field of darkness, this blackness, there are an uncountable number of lights, small lights dispersed throughout this darkness. And I asked the question, what am I looking at here? What is this? Why have I been invited to look down? And the response came that these were my ancestors and the darkness that they're living in, and that they are asking me if I will assist them in processing that darkness. And it seemed as though that's kind of the message I got out of it, was that if we've left the body, to process through that darkness is not really doable. But it's when we're in a body that we have the opportunity to do that. And so, of course, I very joyfully, responded with, of course I will do that. And, it kind of redoubled my commitment to breathing. And usually when I do a still point session, I turn my phone off so I'm not disturbed, but I had not turned my phone off. And right at the moment, when I was asked or was told, these ancestors are asking for support in processing this darkness. And I spoke out loud to myself, yes, of course I will. And said that with some measure of excitement, like, of course, certainly. Well, what else would I do? And at that instant, literally when I spoke that, my phone rang. My son's in Kansas City. My son and I have never had any conversations about our ancestry. He didn't know my father, never met my father, had met my mother, but didn't know her very well, my sisters and brother. And so I answered the phone. And of course, I see it's Michael J. So, yeah, Michael, what's happening? He said, well, Dad, I'm on Ancestry.com. I need some information about our ancestors. It was like, okay, I got the confirmation. And so on occasion now, when I'm doing still point, I will focus in and tap into my ancestry and just invite any energy that needs to be processed, any support that's needed in the family system. That I'm here to do that. So I share that if it may open a space and hold a space for the ancestry of each and every one of us to come to the fully healed space of recognizing who we are, and especially for your grandfather being shot, that whatever that's about, holding the space for him and his life moving forward.
Yeah, thank you. It's a beautiful story that you've told. And yes, as you were telling it, I remember that I have been in a show you told it before, but it's always good to hear. Always good to hear.
Yeah, it was a sweet space.
Yeah.
We actually, Terry was with us. We did a workshop. This goes back, geez, Terry, I'm thinking that's 20 years ago. It was actually shortly after I met Jeanie. We've been together, 22 years? And we did an intensive in Central Florida at a retreat center. And we didn't find out until afterward that we were actually on a Native American burial ground. And during the still point session that we did in that particular intensive, several of the people in their breathing sessions had said that they were approached inwardly in their breathing and had Native American spirits who asked them if they could pass through them to the light, that they were somehow entrapped and were asking for passage and support in moving to the light. So it was a pretty interesting. It's the first time I'd ever encountered anything like that in this intensive. And what we shared that afterward with the people that we'd rented the facilities from, we shared that had happened to a couple of people in their still point sessions. And that's when we found out it was actually a Native American burial ground. So it certainly made sense when we found that out.
Yeah.
Harry, do you have any memories of that? You were at that intensive. Do you have any memories to share from that still point session when that happened?
I remember very moving for quite a few in that whole arena. That space was just really such a nice place to be. It had a really sweet energy to it.
It did, yes. You're cutting out, Terry.
Sorry about
Okay, no problem.
here.
All right, cool. Well, I see Miss Susan is with us. I wonder if Miss Susan has anything to share. We're down to just the last couple of minutes. Any thoughts for you, young lady? Glad you're here.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm listening. No, I don't have very many thoughts.
Okay. One of
had
the
heard
thoughts
that
I had
story
to
too
share with
about the
you.
ancestors. What,
Oh,
Michael?
excuse me. Excuse me. Say it again.
I too have heard you tell about the ancestors.
Yeah.
Massive number of ancestors. I was very glad to learn sometime in another show that doesn't mean we have to make contact with each one and forgive everything that ever happened.
Right. Right.
I got nervous.
And just by way of a piece of information, I don't think you were on the show when Susan F. shared. She had come here and done 3 days of quantum still point, and 2 days later she was biking with her son, and they were on e-bikes, and she had a fall and broke her
Oh,
collarbone in 2 places.
oh my
And so
goodness.
just sharing that with you, that I know you've been
Thanks.
connected with her, so if you'd hold the space for her, she's
Oh,
actually heading in tomorrow to see a surgeon. They're suggesting, because it was broken in 2 places, that she do surgery. So she's going to be making that decision tomorrow, and so I just hold the space for her
oh,
for
thanks for
sure.
telling me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear it.
Well, it was interesting. She shared on the show yesterday that one of the things she was working on during her quantum still point was the issues she'd had. Her father was pretty brutal. She at one point, and of course I'm sharing things that she shared on the show, that she was actually married to a man who threatened to kill her. And after they divorced, he actually had remarried and did kill his wife. So, she had some pretty brutal stuff going on. And what she had been working on in her quantum still point was her projections on men. And she shared in the show yesterday that her son and her former, who she had some projections on, were just totally and completely there 1,000% for her, taking care of her, nurturing her, feeding her, and that she just had like this. It was the blessing in disguise was just a whole new opening in regard to the issue she'd been working on around her projections on men, and that when she fell, they were out on a trail, and it was kind of a remote trail, and a nurse and a first responder were walking the trail, and the first responder, she said, was like one of the gentlest souls she's ever met, a man named Michael, who just this nurse, and they just took total care of her. He created a sling for her. The nurse walked her bike out, and it was just like it was an extension of all the work she was doing. So it's she's definitely received it as and turned it into a blessing. But just let's just join as the whole community as we close out the show of extending that love in her direction, so that she makes the right choice tomorrow about her collarbone, and that if she chooses to go for surgery, which she shared, she's at first she didn't really want anything to do with, but realizes that may be the highest option, that she finds a surgeon with the right hands, the right heart, the right mind to take her into ease and grace in her healing. As Rex has shared, that his ease and grace is healing with his wrist. So we thank everybody for joining us. Hold space for the best year yet of eternal life. Thanks for being with us. Blessings. Bye-bye.